Security cameras of a construction company showed a man murdering a woman and moving her dead body into his storage unit.
Her rental unit has been entered by another individual. We have it on surveillance tape.
It turned out that that man was called Michael J. Olson. Due to his history of petty crimes, when police tracked him down, they tricked him into thinking he was being questioned for something other than murder.
So your storage unit up there on North Hill, when was the last time you were there?
When he finally caved in, he shared his gruesome confession. When he came face to face with the victim's family in court, they certainly didn't hold back.
I'll pray for your family, but I won't pray for you, because you are the devil.
The full story is out on my channel now, with all of the horrid evidence that comes along with it.
The vicious person who raped and murdered her.
This is why you shouldn't go out exploring at night. Popular urban exploration YouTuber Urbex Hill was out exploring one night for a video near a dark, abandoned tunnel. Everything was going alright until he encountered this. As you can see, two things seem to peer out from the corner and stare at him before running away. It's hard to tell what these things are as it's dark, but they appear to be very tall, skinny-looking creatures of some kind. So what do you guys think? Was this two strange-looking people in a dark tunnel at night? Or could these have been some sort of creature? Maybe a skinwalker? Let me know in the comments down below.
5 pictures before a disaster. William Sanders, guiding more than 100 students out of the cafeteria during Columbine High School massacre. He was soon after shot twice in the chest and didn't survive. Last image of Uruguayan Flight 571 before it crashed. Survivors were eventually forced to cannibalize. 16 people were rescued 72 days later. The moments before Transasia's Flight 235 crashed in the Keeling River in Taiwan. The plane carried 58 people, only 15 survived. West Milford took this photo while on a hike in New Jersey, moments before the bear in the picture attacked and killed him. The band Great White playing at Rhode Island Station nightclub, just before their pyrotechnics caused a fire that killed more than people.
Took 2 bullets to the head because of an Instagram story. I am Pop Smoke and this is my tale. Born on the 20th of July, 1999, I was raised in Brooklyn, in a household where money was hard to come by. From a tender age, I sought ways to make ends meet. I took on odd jobs here and there, but music was my true siren's call. I started to spit bars when I was in middle school, penning lyrics in my notebook. I was never the poster child for academia, but when it came to rap, I was all in. I began freestyling with my friends, and we quickly recognized there was something unique about me. When my first hit dropped, everything shifted. People began to take notice, and I got signed to a record label. I released bangers like Dior and Mood Swings, and I rubbed shoulders with big wigs in the rap game. I never forgot my roots and kept Brooklyn close to my heart. I was proud to represent my city. I worked tirelessly to get to where I was, and I wanted my fans to know they too could chase and capture their dreams. Regrettably, it all came to a tragic end when I was murdered in 2020. I had adversaries who traced me via an Instagram story. Social media can make you soar, but it can also bury you. My demise sent shockwaves through the music world, but my legacy endures through my tracks. Stay safe, and I'll catch you on the flip side.
A horrifying piece of CCTV footage. A man tries to abduct a barista through the drive-thru window. Washington State Police have released this clip that occurred on Monday at around 5 a.m. of a man in his car trying to pull the barista out of the drive-thru window into his car whilst he's holding a zip tie device. She's seen just handling cash before he literally lurches out of the window and grabs her wrist, and the other hand has a zip tie, Thankfully, she managed to escape before he just sped off. Despite the terrifying nature of the crime, thankfully, due to the publication of the CCTV, police received loads of tips and actually arrested a suspect on Tuesday morning. The giveaway for the alleged suspect was actually the tattoo, which spelled Chevrolet. Not a very common tattoo, but led to a lot of people phoning in and even giving a name. Thank goodness she managed to get away. That is not okay.
This is one of the strangest copycat crimes you will ever hear about. After the 9/11 terrorist attacks in New York City, there was a genuine concern that people would try to copy this attack, and although there were some attempts, most of these people were caught before they did anything. However, there was somebody who successfully stole a plane and flew it into a tower in America. This person was 15-year-old Charles J. Bishop. At the time, he was a student pilot, and on the 5th of January 2002, his instructor left him alone in the plane to do the pre-flight inspection. During this time, Bishop took flight without permission and headed straight towards the Bank of America Tower in Tampa, Florida. He crashed directly into it and was killed in the process. Luckily, there were no other fatalities. Initially, officials ruled out terrorism, but inside the wreckage of the plane, they found a note written by Charles where he voiced support for Osama bin Laden and the 9/11 attacks. He also stated that he was doing this on behalf of Al-Qaeda. All of these insane facts are the reason that
The unsolved Black Dahlia murder. On January 15, 1947, the remains of a 22-year-old Elizabeth Short. Her body was cut in half and so pale and drained of blood that the woman who found the body mistook it for a mannequin. The body was cut with surgical precision, leaving no trauma to internal organs and bones. Her face was also cut from her mouth to ears, leaving a permanent smile. There was no blood on the ground, making it believed that the body was moved after she had been murdered. 9 days after she was discovered, an envelope was sent to the examiner addressed by using individual cut and pasted letters from magazines and newspapers. It read the Los Angeles Examiner and other Los Angeles papers. Here is Dahlia's belongings. Letter to follow. On March, a suicide note was found tucked in a shoe in a pile of men's clothing by the oceans in Venice. To whom it may concern, I have waited for the police to capture me for the Black Dahlia killing, but have not. I am too much of a coward to turn myself in. So this is the best way out for me. I couldn't help myself for that, all this. Sorry, Mary.
My daughter gave birth to my 7 children. My name is Joseph Fritz, and this is my terrible story. I built a secret basement under my house in Austria. There, I locked up my own daughter Elizabeth for 24 long years. I was a manipulative, domineering father. No one could have guessed what was going on in that basement. I led a double life. A normal husband and father on the top floor and a monster in the secret basement. During the years I spent with that basement, I committed atrocities against my own daughter. Elizabeth had 7 children. 4 of them grew up with her in that secret basement, while the other 3 lived upstairs with my wife and me, unaware of the truth. But in 2008, everything changed. One of the girls was born in the basement because Austin became seriously ill. I had to take her to the hospital, but I didn't know that would be the beginning of my downfall. The doctors asked questions. The police and media began to investigate. My terrible secret was revealed. The basement in which I had locked my daughter and children was discovered. In 2009, I was sentenced to life imprisonment. I'm now behind bars where I can't do anything to anyone. My story has shocked the world, and many people wonder how such a crime could go unnoticed for so long.
The fact that this story is true makes it that much more terrifying. A young mom was walking down a dark street with her 2 kids. As they stroll along, a stranger approaches them and starts talking about their Christmas plans. Well, the kids, innocent and excited, chatted away about Santa and family time and beautiful decorations in their house. Well, this is where things turn creepy. Something didn't feel right to the mom, so she picked up her pace. But the man kept asking about their house. And when they were only 10 houses away, he asked a even more horrifying question. Is your dad home? That night, the dad was actually away at a conference, and the little sister quickly told the man that he was not. And when they reached the front yard, the man rushed towards their door, speaking in a creepy but sweet voice, asking, "Can I see the decorations?" The mom locked the door, feeling him push from the other side. She turned off the lights and took her kids upstairs, but they could still hear the man pacing and knocking outside. The man's request turned into a scary demand. "Let me in to see the decorations." The mom called her husband, who immediately rushed home, but when he got there, the man was gone. Do you think that he only wanted to see the decorations? Be sure to smash the like button and follow, because my next story is even crazier.
911, what's the address of the emergency?
Yes, ma'am. I just shot my daughter and shot all my grandkids, and I'll be sitting on my step, and then when you get here, I'm going to shoot myself.
What is the address that you're at, sir?
2550 Northwest, 25 Terrace, downstairs. Every one of them are dead.
You said your name is Don Spirit?
Yep.
All right, Don, what kind of gun do you have?
It doesn't matter what kind of gun I got. They're all dead, and then when you get here, I'll shoot myself, and then you figure out what kind of gun it is.
How long ago this happened, Don?
I don't want to hear it, man. I'm done with every fucking thing. Just bring the motherfuckers out here, that's all. You got all the kids are dead in the house.
Okay, how many people? Okay, how many people?
6 kids, 1 adult.
6 kids and 1 adult?
Yeah. One of them is a baby.
All right, Don. Is there any way you can stay on the phone with me till I get somebody there to help you?
What's that?
Can I have you stay on the phone with me?
No, not that. I'm waiting for them to get here. When they get here, I'm going to shoot myself on my back step. All I'm doing is waiting for them.
So you're sitting on your back steps?
Yep.
Okay, Dawn.
Decided to do this.
I bet you didn't know the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is based off true events. I am Bubba Sawyer, but you may know me as Leatherface. I was born into a deranged family of cannibals and sadistic killers living in a remote Texas farmhouse. My mother was a quiet woman, but my father was a monster. He was an abusive alcoholic who would beat my mother and us kids whenever he got the chance. As a child, I was always fascinated with the animals that my father would bring home to slaughter. I would watch as he killed them, and I felt a strange sense of satisfaction. I didn't realize it at the time, but that was the beginning of my descent into madness. One day, my father brought home a chainsaw. It was a massive tool, and I was in awe of it. I begged my father to let me use it, and he eventually gave in. From that moment on, I was hooked. I would spend hours on end, cutting through trees and anything else that I could find. The sound of a chainsaw was like music to my ears. It was my escape from the reality of my life. But it wasn't until my father died that I truly lost my mind. I inherited his house, and I turned it into my own personal slaughterhouse. I would lure people in and kill them using my trusty chainsaw to do the deed. The screams of my victims were like a symphony to me. One day, a man named Kirk entered my home to barter for gas. I attacked him with a hammer, killing him. A woman named Pam came in after him. She found my living room strewn with human and animal bones. I grabbed her, impaled her on a meat hook, and dismembered Kirk's body with my chainsaw as Pam watched. Jerry came looking for them both. He found Pam's nearly dead, spasming body in a chest freezer. I killed him with a hammer. Later that night, I ambushed their 2 surviving friends, Sally and Franklin. I killed Franklin with my chainsaw. I captured Sally and brought her back to the house. We tried to include Grandpa in murdering her with a hammer, but Grandpa's grip was weak, and he kept dropping the hammer repeatedly. Sally broke free and ran onto our road in front of our house, pursued by my family. The truck driver attacks me with a large wrench, injuring me, and escaped on foot. Sally, covered in blood, flags down a passing pickup truck and climbs into the bed, narrowly escaping me. I was so angry I let her get away. My family won't be happy about this.
If you're thinking about ignoring your gut instinct, don't. Here are 3 reasons why you should trust it. Reddit user Pagerama said that she was at a festival with her friends, and one of them really wanted to go on this giant drop-style carnival ride. Pagerama said that at this particular time, she just really didn't feel good about going on the ride, and suggested that they do something else instead. Later that day, they found out that a girl had died on the ride, just a few hours after they were there. Apparently, she wasn't harnessed in properly, and she fell out as the ride dropped. A Reddit user we'll call Jessica said that she was walking back from her grandmother's house when a car pulled up beside her. As she kept walking, the car slowly followed. When she looked into the car, there was a man in his 30s or 40s who had the evilest grin on his face. She said that his face has still never left her mind. As he was slowly coming toward her, his eyes stayed on her. She screamed out for help and ran until she found someone that let her into their house. The man didn't leave until they called the police. When they came, they searched his car and found handcuffs, a blindfold, and a big container with 2 holes poked in the top. Her instincts saved her from being kidnapped. Anonymous said that after a party many years ago, he was driving home at like 4 in the morning with his friend who was passed out in the passenger seat. He was driving fast down a steep hill that's like half a mile long. He was on autopilot as he drove down that street every day. Suddenly, about half a block from a major intersection, which he had a green light for, he heard a voice in his head. It said these exact words: "You may want to slow down, because if you don't, you might lose your life." He said that it was weird, because that's not really what his tone of voice sounds like. Anyway, he slowed down as he was entering the intersection, and a car blew the red light at about 60 miles per hour, right in front of him. He said that it was so close that he nearly threw up. He started shaking and yelling at his friend about how he had just saved their lives. His friend just groaned and went back to sleep.
Even I can look at this photo and I can say, whoa. It put tears in our eyes when we walked in there. It was that obvious.
That is a charge called homicide, felony murder. It is life without parole.
And you said when you found her, she was already believed to be deceased, right? Yeah. So you found the child an hour and a half ago? Yeah. And called your lawyer first, correct? Yeah. Okay.
What you just heard and are about to hear is some of the most extreme, bizarre, and baffling thinking ever caught on camera. A child's life taken in the most sickening way, and for one reason so unthinkable, you'll have a hard time believing it was actually said out loud.
I called my lawyer first thing to ask, what's the next thing I could do, and they said wait till they're here to call, the police and get that going. Basically, it got to the point where I was waiting so long, I just kind of went ahead and did it anyway. We will send someone out, we're going to investigate.
After placing the call to emergency services, Seth and his wife, Tatiana Fasari, were escorted to the police station in King County, Michigan, to answer some questions about what happened to their child. It's important to know that both were there voluntarily and not under arrest at the time of these interviews that have never been seen before. The interrogation room is stark, with bare walls, only outfitted with uncomfortable chairs and a table. There are no distractions. All of this is intended to make the person in the room uncomfortable and uneasy. That way, they're dependent on the interrogator to provide them comfort with things such as food and water, or even other favors such as cigarettes or compliments. This gives the interrogator leverage. Seth appears to be nervous as he sits and fidgets. Most people are nervous in an interrogation room, so none of this is really surprising. However, given the situation, his behavior is a bit odd.
Tell me what's going on.
You don't know why you called 911?
Yes, I do.
Okay, then why did you call?
Okay. Do I have to say right now?
Yes.
Okay, then never mind.
And that's when it clicked in my brain that maybe there's a reason why she can't tell me.
Are you able to talk, or is there someone...
No.
Okay. Are you in danger?
Yes.
Okay. Has someone kidnapped you?
I don't know.
Turned out that she was on a date with someone, and they had given her something to drink, and she woke up, and the suspect was sexually assaulting her. And now they were in a vehicle driving along the road. She finally convinced him to let her use the phone, and she called 911.
Does this person know you've called 911?
No.
Okay. Okay, then just pretend like you're talking to your friend, and I'll see if I can't get somebody to help you.
At the time, I could tell that she had called 911 4 times, and all 4 times they had disconnected because she wouldn't tell them what was going on. I was a little bit humbled at that point that I finally got her on the line and was willing to ask her more questions.
Are you in a truck?
Yes.
Okay.
She was in a black pickup truck, extended cab. The suspect had some type of weapon. She couldn't really tell me what. And every so often he would get a little bit suspicious and say, "Who are you talking to?" And she's like, "It's my sister." So I had to kind of change up. It was really a challenging call. I was on the phone with her for a good 20 minutes.
It's my sister. Want to know.
And why can't you talk? Are you afraid he's going to hurt you?
Yes.
Okay. Has he already hurt you tonight?
Yes.
Okay. I'm getting help your way. Just stay on the phone, okay?
Okay.
We finally get an officer behind her, and as he pulls up behind, he's waiting for a backup, but the car blacks out his lights and went to turn up into this rural area where there was, the officer said, "Hey, I'm going to have to pull him over or I'm going to lose him."
Did he turn the lights off to the car?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, he turned off the lights. Okay, the officer can see.
I spent a weekend with one of the most notorious killers in Texas. So in my early 20s, I spent a lot of time in South Texas in women's prisons units, helping people find forgiveness and second chances at life. And on this one particular weekend, when we arrived, the correctional officers informed our team that there was a new inmate on the premises. She was only 17 years old and had been tried and convicted as an adult for a very violent crime. And because I was the youngest person on our prison team, they voted me to be the one to work with her because she was young, I was young, and she might relate to me and open up to me. Now, I had a rule for myself when I worked with these women to never look up their crimes. I didn't want it to affect my judgment about them or to affect my willingness to help them, so that was just a rule that I always kept. So the correctional officers, they walked me down this long corridor into a classroom where sitting at the table was Erin Caffey. Now, Erin Caffey is a tiny thing. Now, I'm a tiny person, and I dwarfed her. She's very small, very timid, very soft-spoken, rarely will look you in the eye. And my first thought whenever I lay eyes on her and I sit down across from her is, how can somebody this small and this timid possibly be convicted as an adult for a violent crime? What violence is she possibly capable of? Little did I know. We started talking, and we kind of started to get to know each other a little bit, cracked a few jokes. I tried to get her to lighten up, and eventually she did start kind of opening up to me, and she started volunteering some details about her version of what had happened the night of her crime. And I have to admit, even though I had a rule to really try not to know what people had done, I was very curious because, again, here's this tiny little thing. She's 17 years old, looks scared to death, and she's in this facility. And well, her version of the events that took place the night of the crime led me to believe that she was a victim in all of it and that it was really out of her hands. She couldn't stop it, and she's haunted by it, regrets it every day of her life, and she just wishes she could take it all back. And y'all, she was so convincing, just absolutely convincing, that I truly believed that she was innocent. She had somehow gotten mixed up with the wrong crowd, was wrongly convicted. And I started brainstorming in my head, like, how can I raise awareness about this and help her get out? Little did I know, in my naivety, that this young lady was a psychopath. She was very cunning, very manipulative, and the small, mousy, timid, soft-spoken thing was very much a calculated tactic to be a wolf in sheep's clothing. And my time with her started a long season of my life of panic attacks and nightmares, and I'm going to tell you more about that.
Some creepy shit you will see on a Ring camera. I'm so glad I have mine.
If I didn't know this was a true crime case, I would think it was a disturbing horror film. On the morning of the 7th of October 2022, a barefoot woman was running around Excelsior Springs, Missouri, bashing on people's doors. Witnesses describe her looking like she came straight from a horror film and she was calling for help. She'd been beaten, held captive, and SA'd for weeks. The woman was a shocking sight. She was covered in injuries and was wearing a bin bag. Disturbingly, she was gasping for breath as she had a very tight metal collar locked round her neck. It was a nurse who opened the door to her and let her come in. The nurse started to call police, and at this point the woman panicked. She warned her that the captor would kill her and claimed that he had killed her 2 friends. When police got there, the woman explained that a man called Timothy had captured her the month prior. He'd been holding her hostage this whole time. She said he'd been keeping her locked in the basement and had been SAing her. Disturbingly, she told police that he actually had a young son who lived at the house with him. When Timothy had taken his young son to school the one day, she used it as her opportunity to escape. Police made their way to the home of 39-year-old Timothy Haslett Jr. and found the property did in fact have a basement like the woman described. Timothy was arrested and is facing 9 charges, including first-degree kidnapping. He's being held on a $3 million bond and faces 5 life sentences. Before his arrest, police were actually called to his address 3 times. Twice they were asked to do welfare checks, and this was from an employer and also family members. Police have searched his home with cadaver dogs and they haven't yet released what they know.
Montgomery County 911, where's your emergency?
I just stabbed myself and I killed my 2 children.
You stabbed yourself and killed your 2 children?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and what's your name?
Brandy Worley.
Brandy what?
Worley.
And where are the children at?
In my daughter's room on the floor.
In your daughter's room on the floor? Okay. And what caused you to do this today?
My husband wanted a divorce and wanted to take my kid. I won't let him have my kid.
Okay, and how old are your children?
7 and 3.
Okay. And where did you stab yourself at?
In the neck.
Okay, are you bleeding?
Yeah, there's blood everywhere.
Okay, and where are you at?
In my living room.
You're in your living room?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and are you armed now with the knife still?
No, it's in my children's room.
Okay, where's your husband at?
Downstairs somewhere.
Okay, what's his condition?
I don't know, I haven't talked to him.
And what are you feeling right now? I mean, are you tired? Are you where?
Yeah, I took a lot of Benadryl.
You took a lot of Benadryl?
Yeah.
Okay.
I took 6 bullets to the head for scoring an own goal. My name is Andres Escobar, and my story is one of the most horrifying in the world of football. It all started on June 23, 1994, during a match with my national team, Colombia, against the United States. This was the second group stage match of the World Cup. After a defeat in our first match, we were desperate for a victory. The tension was high. In the 33rd minute, the United States launched an attack and decided to deliver a cross into the penalty area. I lunged forward to intercept the ball, but tragically it deflected off me and went into my own net, an own goal. This put the United States in the lead with a score of 1-0, and they ultimately won the match, resulting in our elimination from the World Cup. The Colombian people were infuriated with me following that mistake, a mistake that would ultimately cost me my life. A week later, on July 1st, I made the ill-fated decision to visit a nightclub in Medellin with some friends. Little did I know that it would be a decision I would deeply regret. As I left the club around 3 in the morning, I found myself alone in my car in the parking lot. It was already too late at that moment. Out of nowhere, an armed commando consisting of 3 men suddenly appeared and mercilessly showered me with bullets. I sustained a total of 6 gunshot wounds to my head. According to witnesses, one of the assailants even shouted, "Goal," with each shot, cruelly mocking my own goal on the football field. He was later apprehended and sentenced to 43 years in prison for this abhorrent act. I left behind my wife and children, forever altering their lives. Stay tuned for more stories.